Welcome, friends, to another episode of Crusade with me. I'm so glad you're here today. And it marks a powerful turning point in our journey together. This is episode number 75. And it just happens to align with Pentecost. But even more than that, it's the beginning of a 3-part series exploring something that touches every single one of us. The internal battle of double-minded. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to awaken the flame within, what it means to live from a place of unity, clarity, and spiritual wholeness. Pentecost was not just a historical event. It is a living reminder of what happens when Spirit breathes into our lives. So breathe deep. Let the wind of change swirl within the side of us. Let the fire flicker back to life. And let's begin. Well, hello, my queen. How are you?
I'm refreshed and
That's
renewed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Great night's sleep.
I got 9 hours.
That is awesome.
I could not remember the last time I slept 9 hours.
I know.
It has been
Isn't that refreshing?
months.
I know,
Yes.
and it's refreshing.
It's good for my health to sleep
Absolutely.
9 hours.
Absolutely.
So I think some tweaking of medications and new medications is coming together. I mean,
Yeah.
I need succession of, it doesn't have to be 9 hours, but anything over 4.
Is a good thing.
So I'd be happy with 6. 7 would be better. 8 would be marvelous.
But you got 9 last
I got
night.
9 last
that
night.
was awesome.
And I'm feeling peppy.
It is good. And the sun is out, and the sun has not been out here lately.
And the Canadian wildfires have taken over, and the construction of the new addition
Freaking
behind
Canadians.
us.
Sorry.
Stop. So
I was just checking the map of all of our downloads, and I don't see any
no.
Canadian downloads. We have downloads all over the globe, which is really cool.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just like sometimes I just pull that map up and stare at it.
hmm
And that starts when I do things like that. That's what starts igniting the flame within me to continue on this endeavor. Okay, because this takes a little time. I know if you listen to our episode, you're like, yeah, these guys are really fly by the seat of their pants. And we are. And we like it that way. However, we do try to make this somewhat meaningful. And I want to talk about this week's episodes and today specifically, this being Pentecost Sunday. And I've done this for many years now in homilies and so forth when relating to Pentecost Sunday, and I always go back to Genesis and the Tower of Babel because I think they're absolutely connected, and we have to. And it's if that's my job, and I feel like when it comes to giving a homily, and when it comes to imparting the word, so to speak, that you need to do it in a way that it ties and show how it ties. And so I've done that for several years, and I was refreshed to learn one time, a very dear friend of mine we've talked about numerous times, and I was talking about Pentecost Sunday and the homily that day and so forth and so on, and he's like, I never thought of it that way. Do you mind if I use that? I'm like, by all means, I mean, and so, yeah, so we're going to be talking about today about in this week's episodes, are for me. I mean, all these episodes are for me. And I want to be real clear with people that the things we're talking about, we're not talking to people. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking to people. I'm talking to myself.
Absolutely. Ditto.
You know, it is just, and I don't want people to think that, oh, you know, why do you think I focus so much on God does not call for perfection? Mm-hmm. Because I am amazingly aware of how imperfect I am. Okay.
And a lot of these conversations happen between you and I. And sometimes we're like, okay, stop. Let's stop.
Right.
Well, we're going to, because we want these sometimes to be organic conversations that you and I have.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's what this episode was. So today, Sunday, June 8th, is Pentecost Sunday. That's the day the Spirit came like a rushing wind and tongues of fire. So we read in Acts 2 that the disciples were all together in one place, and suddenly, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house. And there appeared what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each one of them, meaning the apostles. And all of them were filled with the Holy Spirit. And they began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Wind and fire. Untouchable. Uncontrollable. Yet deeply transformational. When the Spirit comes, it doesn't just whisper. It roars. It ignites. And yet so often, we walk through our days feeling split, divided, double-minded. Have you ever felt that way?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way. I just, and that's why I say I'm talking to myself about these things. Like there are two of me or two of you inside. Mm-hmm. One wants to rise and one that keeps pulling you back down. Mm-hmm. One that wants to act and another one that wants to hesitate in fear. One that speaks truth and another one that covers it up. That's the battle of the double-minded soul. And that's what we're starting to heal today.
She laughs because she identifies.
I think most people, can identify with this. And, you know, this is obviously a podcast based in Christendom and Christian beliefs. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you can live in Christendom and when you really dwell on it and think about it, that you are not, you have to, at some point we have to come to an understanding that we are being double-minded. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. The naysayers in the world today love to call it hypocrisy.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So I'm trying to get a different term maybe. I've said that for years and years and years, right? That the only hypocrites are people who believe in something. Right?
Right. Now, what were you saying about the Spirit being controlled?
No, it's
it's uncontrolled.
it's something that you can't touch.
Right.
Just like a fire, something you can't touch or shouldn't touch, right?
Right.
And it appears to be not controllable. It's uncontrollable. It's just the wind. Who controls the wind?
Okay.
Without a whole lot of effort, who controls a wildfire?
Right.
Right? That was my reference.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
Seeking clarity.
No, absolutely. So let me ask you something.
Uh-oh.
What if Pentecost isn't just a story about the early church? What if it's the story of you and me? What if you're the house and the wind is knocking on your door? And what if the fire is already in you, but needs your attention to awaken?
It is.
Right, I know. That's what I feel like. So that's why I wanted to do this, and I thought, I call that divine intervention, as I had been thinking about this, and then reading for the homily and what the scriptures are and Pentecost and so forth. So, being double-minded is like trying to walk two paths at once, or worse, trying to follow two masters who are giving you opposite directions. So no wonder you feel tired, right? Confused, pulled in too many directions. So let me offer you I was thinking about this a little bit, an imagery. Let me offer you a picture here, so to speak. So imagine a candle. It's lit, but barely lit, and the wick is long. I used to sell candles. I was.
Yes, you did.
So maybe we should preface this before I get into this story, right? Because I am a loving, kind, wonderful human being.
Yes, you are.
I have.
You are.
and sarcastic. And I have this goes back, man, 20 years? More than that, maybe?
I think it was 07, because that was your email address. Dave's Hot Flame 07.
I had a family member.
A sister-in-law.
My sister-in-law, who she did quite well in a company.
Party Light.
Party Light. That was the name of it, Party Light.
I mean, she was going on cruises. She was not only sold it, but she had so many people, the pyramid thing. She had so many people underneath her, but she needed one more distributor to go on a cruise that year.
And I said, well, how much does it cost? She said, it costs nothing. I said, well, put my name down. I'll do it. Right?
Right.
And I did. So I became a Party Light distributor, and then I had to go on to a couple of parties with her to get my training. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so I learned how to take all the boxes of candles and bullshit stuff and take the boxes and then cover them with cloth and set up and make this beautiful display that all the people and I want to be real clear. What I didn't, if I'd have thought about it for like half a second, I could have put this together, but I did not. And the only people that attend these parties are women.
Right.
Okay. There are no men.
Right.
And at these not shows, but
parties.
Yeah, parties.
Parties.
You
call them hen clucking sessions.
Oh my God, yeah, it was grueling. But so I hadn't really thought about that. So I'm packing up my car with these boxes of candles. And
you were
stuff.
working in the mills at the time, and so you were doing this as. I mean, not only were you doing it to help her out, but you thought, okay, it's some extra cash.
Sure, and actually, it was nice cash.
It was.
It was some nice.
Well
yes, I did. Until I decided I'm done.
I'm out.
Yeah. So I had I didn't do bad. I was shocked at the number of people that sometimes I would go into a home and I was like, these folks don't have no money, and the money they would spend on candles kind of surprised me. But anyway, and sorry for me making judgments, but we all do, right?
Well, you never really made it outside of your contact, your circle of friends.
Right. Well, I did some people that I did not know at all.
And then, of course, the girls in the mill, they just thought it was hilarious to see you selling candles.
Well, when they found out,
stereotypical for a man to be selling candles,
right? And especially as a manager, I'm the So they had a group called the Women of Steel,
which is a great title.
It is, and they had done a lot of, and I'm talking about these are union members. These are United Steelworkers employees. And one of them, a ringleader, for lack of a better term, said, "We want to have a party." Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, well, there's like 50 to 100 women in this Women of Steel group.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be great.
I wonder how many will appear.
Yeah.
And there was like 55 women at this lady's house. Mm-hmm. And I pull up and go in. And I want to be clear, I don't even know if I need to. Anyway, I'm not. I was debating on how much detail I'd give, but I'm not going to.
Don't go into great detail.
Other than the fact that, so I'm at this house giving this party, and the women had obviously started long before I had arrived, and they had been drinking. Uh-huh. And that wasn't uncommon for maybe the women to offer wine. Or something like that. Uh-huh. And this is what I was debating on saying. For clarity and just to give you the vision of this party, I'm the only white Caucasian male. Well, I'm the only male there, but I'm the only white person in the neighborhood, and I'm in this house of 55 women. Uh-huh. That
but
I know most all of them. Uh-huh. Yeah. And now some of them had brought their neighbors and their friends, and so technically I probably worked with about 20, 25 of them.
Okay.
Regardless.
Right.
And they range from about their mid-20s to their mid-60s. Okay. I mean, there's quite a range of these women. Mm-hmm. And they are having a blast.
Yeah. Which is great.
It is. It's awesome. And a fun energy. It was just a fun energy.
Because you played little games.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly how all this went. But it came in, I set up and talked. They offered me a drink. I'm like, no, I'm working. I can't,
I'm working my hot flames.
I'm the candle gigolo at this moment. But anyway,
just a gigolo, and everywhere I go,
matches are in my pocket. No, I don't know. But what I am completely unaware of, and I don't think this was I forgot to mention this to you. I think this was intentional.
Intentional to see your face?
The host, who I thought the world of. She was a great person. Yeah. And her father and I were peers at work, right? Uh-huh, so, and this is his daughter. And
wasn't he the mayor of that town, too? Or am I thinking
no, he was a precinct committeeman. He was a precinct committeeman.
I know it was something political.
Yeah. And what she had failed to mention to me was that she had planned on having 2 different parties this night. So I'm the first out of the gate. I'm the candle gigolo, right? What she didn't tell me was I had 40 minutes, and then the other party was going to start, which was a sex toy party.
Yep.
And we are packed in this family room den type area like sardines. There is a ton of us in here. And it's summer. And I notice as I'm talking and giving my spiel and showing the different, this is the Zen lantern and this is the baby candle and this has the smell and this is the this.
You really pulled that out of your
I know. I remember.
Zen, I had that for a long time.
Yes, we did. I love that. But anyway, and we do light candles. We use a lot of candles. Yeah. Well, you've kind of gotten away from that. But anyway, the now they start talking about sex toys while I'm trying to wrap up and get the orders. All these women have to fill out this paper, right? And then I've got to tabulate that. And then, I mean, it is
then the
a
whole
mess.
Picks out what she gets for free, yada, yada, yada.
And she is sitting next to me, and she's in all her glory. She's so happy, and she's happy from whatever they were drinking, and I don't know that it was wine, but it was something. And giggling, and I'm going to say her first name.
Keisha?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, see,
you pulled that out. I said, and I am literally sweating. I mean, like drops of sweat dripping off of my face onto my shirt, onto my paper.
Your carbon paper.
Yes. And the more I sweat, the more she laughs. And I'm like, Keisha, I cannot impress upon you how important it is for you to finish this quickly. Which was probably a mistake because she's like, hold on, Dave, I need to refill my drink. So I'm like, and they are, and then I don't want to know any of this, all right? Because now this is a realm of that I just don't want to know. And one of the coworkers, who is in her mid-60s, a widow woman, is talking about whatever this other lady is now showing and passing around, and it's like a 24-inch.
Okay, we're not getting into details.
And she announces, this is wonderful. I have one of these. And I'm like, oh my God, please. And Keisha is roaring. And I had a cell phone at that time. And I remember I finally got packed up. My shirt is soaking wet. All right. I mean, my shirt is soaking, almost like when we lived in Arkansas, right? We'd be outside for a while.
I think you told Keisha, I'll collect this from you at work.
Yes. I said, look, I'm done. I'm not going to, we'll figure this out. And so I packed up and left. And before I pulled away from the curb, I called my sister-in-law and said, this is my last party. I'm out. Now, she had already went on her trip to Aruba or whatever.
Yep, I think it was Aruba.
So I had fulfilled my obligation. Yep. And that is my story about me knowing a little something about candles. Okay. So now you understand why I'm talking about an image of a candle and it's lit, but it's barely lit. And the wick is long and the flame is weak and every gust of wind threatens to snuff it out. That's the inner fire of the double-minded soul. It's not gone, but it's flickering. Now picture this. You cup your hands around that flame. Then you breathe into it. Not to extinguish it. You're giving it a little bit extra oxygen. So you're feeding it. So your hands, you're guarding it from the chaos. You're protecting it from lies. You give it your full attention. And it begins to burn brighter. And it can become a torch. And it can light our paths. And that is what we are doing today. And that's what Pentecost offers. Not just power, but unity, alignment, integrity. Are you smelling what I'm cooking?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great analogy.
Well, thank you.
And you're also a good fire starter, so that
I am a good fire starter.
That tracks all that you were saying with that also.
Don't ask Andrew if I'm a good fire starter. Remember when you had told me, and I don't know, he was in middle school, I think. I think he was in middle school.
Yes, I know where you're going.
And you asked me to take him to have the talk.
Yeah, the birds and bees talk.
Yes. And so I took him out to a local
campground.
Well, it wasn't really a campground. It was a park. It was a state park. In a thunderstorm.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be a thunderstorm.
No, I know.
Got your campsites, but
so, and it had been raining and storming for hours and hours, and I'm like, well, okay, hopefully it'll light it up sometime. And I'm trying to light a fire, and I'm not even sure why, because we're not going to sit out in the rain around a fire. I had not sure what I had in mind. I think I was preoccupied with what am I going to say to him?
Well, I guess you probably needed to cook your food, right?
That's true. That is true. That is true. And I think I used at that time. I always carried. I had them from work. I had tactically acquired them from work because of the working in the mills. We move a lot of things by rail, right? And I'm saying so we have a lot of remote engines and signaling. When the remote engines were down, you actually had to put a person in the engine to operate the engine, and then you have a switchman or signalman. He does both. We used road flares, right? So if you put your arm out straight out from your shoulder and you move it up and down, that means come forward, right? And then if you run the flare across your knees, that means stop, right? So they know. And we did that even though we all had Motorola radios. I don't know why we still, but I guess that's our tradition.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, it's you know what? It's always good to have a verbal command, but it's also good to have a visual signal. So I've seen people killed.
Yeah.
Switching and they failed to do those things, like communicate through verbally and then physical signals. Right. And that was the downfall of the Motorola radios. They would just depend on those way too much. Anyway, I'm really getting off subject.
Yeah.
Let's be real. No pun intended. So here's what I want. Here's something that I was thinking about that we could start. And it is a breath practice. And you and I have had these conversations on how important breathing is. And it's simple, but it's powerful. So sit in a quiet place. Close your eyes. Breathe in slowly through your nose, then exhale through your mouth. And as you breathe, choose a word. Just one word. And that's up to your mind and your heart to decide what word it is. And it can change daily. But it could be peace. It could be flame. It could be clarity. It could be now. Breathe in the word. Then let it fill your lungs. And then exhale the clutter. And do this for 5 minutes. So you let that word become part of you. That word, your center, your unifying flame. You see, when we're double-minded, we let too many words define us. too many identities, too many roles. But your soul knows who you really are. And we can't talk about Pentecost without talking about language, right? Mm-hmm. So Pentecost is the redemption of language. It's the healing of Babel. The disciples spoke in many tongues, but they were understood. It's not what you see in modern day society where they say speaking in tongues and then it's gibberish. It's not what happened at Pentecost. Double-mindedness fractures our speech. We say one thing, but we mean another. We gossip when we want to connect. We lie when we are afraid. We flatter when we crave approval. Can anybody think of a time in their lives that any of this has come true for them? I don't have to go back far in my memory at all. But your tongue doesn't have to be a tool of division. It can be a bridge. So here's your next practice. Try this. The pause. Before you speak, pause.
Oh, man.
3 seconds. Ask yourself, is this coming from unity or division? That little pause, it changes everything.
That is so good.
Well, thank you, my love.
That's good, and that's going to be a hard one for me.
But you know what this does, that pause could do?
I understand, yeah.
But think of it in this light. It can make your words sacred.
Yeah.
It turns conversation into connection. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we want?
Yes, and then obviously for someone who knows I speak way too quickly and reactionary, then obviously the person I'm talking to, i.e. you, then maybe you would know my words would have more meaning.
And become sacred, right?
And you know that I've taken the pause.
Right. You know, I'm no expert in anything. I think I say that almost every episode.
That's not true.
But one thing I have worked hard at for the last decade or more is training myself and to not react, but respond.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
All right. I used to react a lot. And let me tell you, it can get you in trouble a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Non-productive, non-value add, whatever you want to whatever term you want to use, whatever your vernacular is.
Mm-hmm.
So that pause, one, you're trying to be one with yourself and understand and not be double-minded.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to, here's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Into another daily rhythm this week. It's called the One Voice Journal. One voice. Each night, or evening, or write down the loudest voice you heard inside yourself that day. Was it fear, shame, love, hope? Write it down. Track it. You'll start to notice pattern. And the goal's not to silence those voices. The goal is to unify them, to help them speak the same truth. Your soul isn't your enemy. You are not an enemy divided amongst yourself. Mm-hmm. We do that. Mm-hmm. Even your fear is trying to protect you.
Right.
But when all your inner voices align under one purpose, one spirit, you become powerful. You become whole. That leads me to another area. Friends, I want all of us to think about this. The spirit is not just fire and wind. The spirit is clarity. So when you let that flame awaken, you start to remember who you really are. You stop performing. You let the mask drop. You stop running. You stop choosing a different identity every time the wind changes. Ding, 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 right? Then you start to live from the fire. You speak with the wind. And you walk in unity. Well, my love.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I was going to say that your number one challenge about the breath prayer reminded me of when I was 14 and I was diagnosed with migraines. And I spent a week in the hospital. And then I was, given medication, and it wasn't what they call an osteopathic hospital, which, they kind of believe in besides just medication, and healing the mind.
Yeah, they look at you more holistically.
Holistically, thank you. That's what I was looking for. So I was sent to a psychologist to learn. This was very new, very...
To you it was.
Well, no, I think it was very new at the time, kind of almost like a trial thing. It was called biofeedback.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you learn to move, we would call it now energy.
Right,
but you take because the blood vessels in your head are getting hot, and
right. So you want to dissipate the heat.
You want to dissipate the heat. So I learned how to take the heat from my head and move it and cool it off and move it to my feet.
Right.
And they would monitor that actualization by putting a monitor on my pinky finger, and I would sit there and they'd play relaxing music, and there was a nice woman's soft voice, and she would talk about how I was laying on a beach, and so I'd have to imagine the heat first on my head,
right,
and then how a cloud would come and it would kind of start to shade my head, and then the shade would eventually move from my head down to my neck, and then it would move to my hands. And as I would get to that finger, it would actually start to see my pulse and my heart rate start to go down, and eventually it would go, and they could monitor that.
Absolutely.
So I have used biofeedback over the years, obviously for menstrual cramps, obviously for migraines. So recently you were telling me about how someone on social media had talked about how externally someone had told them about putting cold ice packs on their head and a heating pad on their feet to get rid of a migraine because obviously migraines have come back into my life because I have migraine-associated vertigo. Part of that has resurfaced in my life. I just don't have the full rotational spin. I'm having the dizziness with it.
Sure.
So anyways, I say all that to say sometimes we need to pick the internal instead of the external.
Yes.
So instead of taking I'm speaking metaphorically about the physical, why not don't do the ice pack and the heating pad. Let's heal from the inside.
Because you can do that.
Because I know how powerful that is to train my mind to get rid of a migraine. So how powerful it is to speak in a breath prayer, even if it's just 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, because we're training our mind to believe in the power of words floating through our body, through our mind, and through breath.
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right.
Internal over external. It's more powerful that way.
Yes. And this is we were created, okay? We are marvelous, magnificent creations and machines. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say that we're machines because we have a soul and we have the spirit.
We're not robots.
No. But we are such complex machines that even in the 21st century, medical science has not determined so many things, right? They think we think we are so advanced, but we're really not. And technically what you're talking about is some ancient practices that were practiced in other parts of the world. And truly, you're using your mind. Mm-hmm. Guess what your mind does? Your mind makes you blink, right? I don't think about blinking my eyes. Mm-hmm. My brain does that. Mm-hmm. Guess what else my mind does? My mind makes sure my heart's beating. Without my brain, my heart would not beat.
Right.
My mind makes sure I don't think about breathing. I really don't. I probably need to start thinking about breathing more to get better at it. When I say get better at breathing, I'm talking about the controlled breathing.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And deeper, better breathing than what I do. But yes, absolutely.
Right.
We were designed that way.
Yes.
And I think I've read this. Scientists have determined they believe that we only truly use about 10% of our brain.
Right.
And I'm not talking about low IQ. I'm talking about as humanity, we only truly tap into in about 10% of our brain. Mm-hmm. Do you think God intended us to only use 10%?
No.
I don't think so either.
We have dummied ourselves down over.
Yes. And that's what this podcast is truly about. On that road back to Eden, on that relationship and communion with the Almighty, being what we were created to be. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about here. God demonstrated at Pentecost with wind and flame. Mm-hmm. And that's just what made me think about this episode today. And we're going to be talking about this more this week. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other final thoughts, my love? Okay. I started talking and I didn't want to interrupt you or... That was absolutely wonderful. I'm glad that I'm glad you related that story because I'd forgotten. Right. Now, for everybody to be aware, when you were 14, we were not dating, or maybe we started when you were 14.
We knew each other. Because I think you called me while I was in the hospital, but no. And let me be clear, biofeedback will not take away the pain of a kidney stone.
True.
It's more muscle related or migraine related, but will not heal or will not take that kind of pain away.
Okay, so thank you. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this blessing. When the wind stirs and the fire burns, don't run. Let it remake you whole. Let Pentecost live in you, not just once a year, but every single day. The Spirit is not waiting outside. It's waiting inside. Quiet. Steady. Patient. Listen. Breathe. And burn. Well, thank you for joining us today. Join us next time for episode 76, where we'll take this even deeper. We're calling it The Shadow and the Saddle, Facing the Fork Inside. It's going to be a powerful ride. Until then, keep your flame alive. This is Crusade with me. I'll see you on the narrow road, and as always, remember to crusade with me.